Hi my loves, thanks again for tuning into my channel. It's Chris. Today we're going to jump into our frequency separation. This is the follow-up video to our spot healing video where I'm going to show you how I do my frequency separation for my beauty retouching. Now this isn't to say this is necessarily how you guys have to do it. I'm just showing you how I like to do it. So we're going to jump back into the image that we were using in our previous video of Ashley from the beauty shoot that I did with her. Now as you can see, I've already spot healed and I've also gone ahead and liquefied her just a bit to like my liking. Like I said in my spot healing video, I don't spend too much time on that, and I don't spend too much time on this either. Once I liquefy, really what I do that for is just to kind of just like chisel certain areas of the face just to give it a little bit more definition, maybe like under her chin, like in her cheeks, just bring those out a little bit. You know, her neck, depending on the image. I can do a separate video to show you guys exactly how I do that. Now once I've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into my frequency separation. So the first thing I do is duplicate my original layer twice, group that, and rename it frequency separation. Like I said, I like to keep my workflow organized and know what my layers are at all times. Once I've done that, I'm gonna open up the layer, and in it, each layer is going to be renamed accordingly. So I'm going to rename my lower layer low frequency and my high layer high frequency. Now once I've turned off my high frequency layer and selected my low frequency, I'm going to go ahead and add a Gaussian blur. Now why I normally do this is just to be able to like blend out and blur out certain tones of the skin. So once I start clone stamping on that, it's easier for you to be able to, you know, like I said, like blend those tones out to give that skin like that smooth, almost like flawless look. Normally what I like to do for this one is keep it at a level of maybe like 10 or 12, depending on what the image looks like. So now I'm gonna select my high frequency and go into that by editing and adding an image. Now what this is gonna do is bring back up the textures that we lost in that blur. I'm gonna ensure that the layer is selected to the low frequency layer. The color, I'm gonna leave that. Invert my image, opacity on 100. Blending mode, I'm gonna select add, and then for my scale I'm gonna select 2. Now once you've done all of that correctly, you can follow everything I have here on the screen. You should have your image looking something like this. Now once that's done, I'm gonna select OK, and on my high frequency layer for the blending mode, I'm going to select linear light. Now you should have something that looks similar to this, where it brings up something that looks like the original image, but it's not. You're gonna have 2 separate layers to your image. The low frequency where you have the blur, and on the high frequency, as I've selected here, you can see it's gonna be more textured, which is, like I said, what the high frequency does is to add back that texture and bring it back up in the image. So once you start clone stamping and doing your high frequency layer, that I will not touch. The only thing I've ever worked on when I do this process is my low frequency layer. I like to leave the texture and everything as is in my high frequency. So I'm gonna select my clone stamp, and I normally like to keep my opacity down to between 15 and 20% for this, the hardness of my brush at 0, and I'm gonna select a soft brush. Now once I clone stamp or start clone stamping, like I said, I'll always clone stamp on my low frequency layer. I never touch my high frequency. Once I start clone stamping, I'm gonna sample areas of, or certain areas of the skin that I want to correct, or I'm gonna take this down to about 15 actually. I have it on 20, let's do 15. Yeah. So once I start selecting areas of the skin that I want to sample, so basically what, like I said, you want to be able to like blend out her skin, to give her skin like an even tone to it, so we're getting rid of all of the blemishes and like the uneven skin tones. In our spot healing, that was just to get rid of like the surface problems of the skin. So like I said, the pimples, the blemishes, depending on how big those are, you know, fine hairs, unwanted hairs, little details like that that we didn't want on the surface of the skin. But for our frequency separation, this is getting more in detail of cleaning up the entire skin, almost as if you're adding like a layer of foundation to the skin. So think makeup, when you put makeup on your skin versus where you're applying that over the skin, this is kind of going under the skin since we're working on our lower layer to do that. I'm just gonna zoom up real quick so you guys can see what I have right here. So you can already see, like in her forehead where I've done the before and after, it's already like taken out like the unevenness of the skin tone, and it's even and smooth everything out really nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and basically do that to her whole entire face. And what I am doing, guys, I'm not sampling and dragging. So I'm not sampling an area and then like drawing it on or dragging it on into another area to transition that color into the area that I want it to be. What I'm doing, if you guys have ever heard of like stippling or like dabbing, so stippling is when you basically like create like little dots in an area of whatever it is you're doing, an image or a square, or if you're shading something, you stipple and you create like little dots. That's the kind of like motion, I guess you could say, that I'm doing stippling or dabbing once I sample the area that I want to transition that color onto the parts of the skin that I want it to be. I'm not dragging it or drawing it. I'm creating like a stippling motion over those areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up and come back so you guys can see the before and after of what that will look like. While I'm doing that, please don't forget to go ahead and hit the red button down below to subscribe to my channel, guys, because this is only part 2 of or 3-part video that I will be releasing. So click that subscribe button and just go ahead and click the bell button beside it so you guys can get notified once I start releasing more videos, because like I said, I am gonna be doing that because I enjoy doing it and I love sharing these little tips with you guys. So in the meantime, while I'm doing this, go subscribe, click the bell button, and I will be right back to show you what this should look like once you're finished with it. Okay guys, here we have it. So this is basically what your image should look like after your frequency step. I'm actually just gonna go in here really quick and just like touch up her lips. I tend to do that depending on, you know, the image, if I need to or not. But yeah, so stay tuned for the next part where we're gonna be finessing this image. So don't forget guys, please subscribe, like, comment, and hit that bell button. See you in the next video.